You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Did your love of horses start in the pages of a book? If so, this episode of Barn Stories is for you.
Welcome to the Barn Stories podcast. I'm Lori Prinz, editor of Equus Magazine.
And I'm managing editor Christine Barakat.
This podcast features our favorite essays and articles published in Equus over the past 40 years. Although Equus is known for articles on horse care and veterinary research, our editorial mission has always been guided by the bond that exists between horses and people. And each issue has featured a real-life story that celebrates how horses enrich our lives and touch our hearts.
We've searched our archives, chosen the stories that resonated with our readers, and given them new life in this audio format. Longtime subscribers may recognize some of their favorite pieces. And if you're new to the Equus community, these stories will confirm that no matter what sort of saddle you sit in, a deep emotional connection to horses is something we all share.
The essay in this episode will resonate with anyone who grew up reading the equine literary classics, books like Black Beauty, Billy and Blaze, My Friend Flicka. These books made so many kids dare to dream about someday having a horse of their own. I know I was one of those kids.
And you know that I was one of those kids too. But as we all eventually came to realize, horses don't just leap off the pages of a book and into our lives. For so many of us, horses took years and several detours to arrive. And when they did, they were often not the color, size, or breed we had envisioned. But nonetheless, their presence was sweeter and more meaningful than we ever imagined. That's the shared experience that this essay so poignantly describes.
So let's listen to My Storybook Horse, written by Jenny Schmidt and read by Taylor Autumn.
When I was a little girl, my father gave me a tattered old book for Christmas, one that his mother had given to him when he was little. Billy and Blaze by C.W. Anderson. It's about a boy and his pony and all the adventures they share. I read it over and over until the cloth binding turned shiny from wear. I couldn't imagine anything in the world better than to have what Billy had. A pony, a barn, a dog, and woods to ride in. I never got my pony or barn, only the dog. I grew up, went to college, found a job, and settled gently into urban life. I married, had children, grew older. The dream of owning a horse and barn had retreated to some dusty back shelf in my memories. When I was 43, we moved to a new city, and I soon realized we'd arrived in an area where horses were plentiful. Was it finally time to get my pony? My husband immediately rejected the idea. So I hatched another plan, leasing a horse. I wrote an ad and the responses poured in, but one struck a chord. A man emailed me to say that on a whim, he bought a starving yearling at auction, and now he was stuck with her. Would I be interested in leasing a baby? Maybe, I told him, and went to see her. She was all skin and bones and overgrown feet. Still, she was pretty, a palomino with a white blaze and a sweet, shy way about her. I felt like she needed what I could give, and a deal was struck.
No one knows your horse's thoughts, emotions, and moods as well as you. Just as in touch as you are with their personality, Sentinel's expert nutritionists are in tune with their dietary needs. With feeds in the form of extruded nuggets to provide exceptional nutrition and formulas made for every life stage and activity level, Sentinel's wide choice of carefully crafted feeds makes it easy to find the perfect fit to better your horse's health. Learn more at feedsentinel.com/health. That's feedsentinel.com/health.
I spent hours with the little filly, whom I named Daisy, grooming her bony little body and teaching her what she needed to know. I was in love, and she was beginning to thrive. Then, after just 2 months, her owner announced he was sending her back to auction. And so, with a resigned nod from my husband and $100, Daisy was mine. Not long after that, my husband accepted a new job in a different country. A friend agreed to care for Daisy while we were gone, but 1 year stretched into 4. My pony and my dream had disappeared once again. When we finally returned, we bought an old, beat-up farm, and when it was finally ready, I sent for Daisy. She arrived on a hot summer's night, sweaty and tired from the cross-country trip. Still, she seemed pleased with the tall grass and the sweet smell of hay in the barn. She settled in, and I found her a friend to share the pasture with. Now, in the mornings, I like to stand at the kitchen window and watch Daisy graze in the lower field. She's a beauty, strong and golden. One day, not long after she arrived, Daisy and I went for a hack in the woods. I could hear birds calling and a squirrel foraging in the leaves. Rays of sunlight filtered through all the trees. And I suddenly remembered a drawing from Billy and Blaze. In the picture, the boy rides his pony through the woods filled with birds and rabbits and a riot of green. And here I was doing exactly the same. How often can one say that a dream long held has become life? I felt wrapped in grace. I had my family, my barn, my dog, and a pony of my very own. It took me 40 years longer than I had once hoped, but that's okay. Maybe I am even more grateful because of the long wait. That day in the woods, I drew Daisy to a halt, and we were quiet for a long while. Then, with a pat and a squeeze, we slowly moved on and made our way up the hill to home.
Thanks for listening to Barn Stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a favorite article or essay from the Equus archives that you'd like us to feature in a future podcast, let us know. You can reach us at equusbarnstories, all one word, @gmail.com.
Did you enjoy this episode of Barn Stories? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Thanks for listening.
The Barn Stories podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of the Equine Network.